In this video, I'm going to talk about the victim mentality and how it may be holding you back in your life without you even realizing it, so that by the end of this video, you can take control of your life and create the life you deserve. First, I'm going to explain what it is and how you can recognize it, and then I'm going to get into some ways about how to avoid it, as well as why it's important to do so. So what is a victim mentality? The victim mentality is basically just when you put yourself in a position of zero power or zero control over what's going on in your life. So if you have a victim mentality, then you probably do a lot of complaining, a lot of making excuses, and a lot of blaming other people. One of the easiest ways to recognize that you're falling into a victim mentality is if you're asking yourself a lot of why questions, like why me? Why does this always happen to me? Or why can I never this, that, or the other thing? If you do find yourself asking these types of questions, I have the perfect replacement, which I will get to later in the solutions part of this video. But anyway, why do people fall into a victim mentality? Why is this even a thing? Well, it's because it's easy. It's way easier to just sit there and complain and blame people than it is to actually take responsibility for your life and go ahead and put in the work necessary to not be a victim of anything. To put it into context, we'll use the example of the typical guy that is just like hopeless with girls. Just, oh, I can never get a girl. I don't know why. All girls hate me. I'm never gonna have a girlfriend. That sort of thing. It's so much easier. As much as you hate not being able to get girls, it's so much easier to just sit there and complain about it. Like, it literally takes zero effort. But what does take effort is going in and putting in the work, researching it, dropping your ego to look it up online and realize that there's tons of good information out there, and then put that into practice and go practice for many, many hours until you actually master it. That will solve your problem. But that's not easy. That takes a ton of work. And that's why so many people end up falling into the victim mentality, because it's like, oh yeah, I can never get girls just because I just can't. No, it's because you need to put in the work. And if you're not willing to put in the work, you're not going to see the results. So now for the solutions. How do you get over a victim mentality if you have one? The first is pretty obvious, but it's the most important. Just take full responsibility of your life. Anything that happens in your life, try to figure out why it's your fault. It might not necessarily be your fault, but as a thought exercise, try to figure out why it might be your fault. Like, it might actually be your fault that you're even in the situation that went wrong in the first place. By really thinking about how just about anything could be your fault, you will be able to really take control of your life. Because the good thing is, even though it's your fault, which is kind of a bad thing, the good thing is if it's something that you caused, it's something that you can change. And that's the whole key here. To overcome the victim mentality, it's all about the ability to change. It's about having control, having power. And so saying that something is your fault can be uncomfortable because it's like, oh, this bad thing is because of me. But the good news about that is that that means you can change it. And that is the key here. I've actually already made a video talking about this exact concept of taking full responsibility of your life, where I explained this equation. It was E plus R equals O, which is event plus response equals outcome. So basically just, there are things that happen in your life, those are pretty much out of your control. And then there's the way that you respond to it, and those two things together produce your outcome. If you want to know more about that, I'll have a link up here in the corner. And now the other solution, which is the one I was mentioning earlier, is that if you find yourself asking yourself things like, why me? Or why does this always happen to me? Change that from a why question to a how question. And this is basically the concept of empowering versus disempowering questions. So asking something like, why does this always happen to me? That's disempowering, because it's making it seem like it's completely out of your control. Just something happened to me because I am the victim. I have nothing to do with what just happened. But if you say, instead of, for example, why can I never get a girlfriend? Why don't you say, how can I get a girlfriend? What are some steps that I can take that will get me in the right direction so that I can eventually get a girlfriend? And it goes back to what I was saying earlier. That's the harder question to ask, because that's the one that requires work. So to wrap up, try to make sure that you are taking full responsibility for the things that are happening in your life by asking yourself, how could this be my fault? And make sure you ask yourself empowering questions rather than disempowering ones. So ones that start with how, like how can I do this, rather than why does this happen to me? Anyway, it's starting to get dark out and I don't have a whole lot else to say, so I'm gonna wrap it up here. If you like this video, go ahead and show me some love, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.